Yeah. Today. Said I woke up to the summer shining through. Calling on my friends asking what's the move. Feeling a little different, I'm on something new. Today. I ain't gonna let no clouds get in my way. The only road I'm walking is the one I pick. Catch me sitting in the sun, no time for shade. Today. This is the day that the Lord has made, and I ain't gonna let it slip away. I'm gonna be joyful. Yes I am. I'm gonna be joyful. Today. I'm gonna be joyful. Ooh, I'm gonna be joyful. I got that feeling that you get when you get new kicks. Bell ringing on the last day of singing, yeah. High-fiving everybody, but we out of here. Today. So fast, life comes and goes. Make it last, best slow your roll. They don't take it as a choice, but you gotta know that today's the day. This is the day that the Lord has made, and I ain't gonna let it slip away, nah. I'm gonna be joyful. I'm gonna be joyful. Today. I'm gonna be joyful. Yes I am. I'm gonna be joyful. Today. I got the joy down in my heart, down in my heart, down in my heart. I got the joy down in my heart, down in my heart, down in my heart. I got the J-O-Y down in my heart, down in my heart, down in my heart. I got the joy down in my heart. Today.
Hi, it's me, it's Evan. He's been in change of personnel, wow. Anyway, I'm currently outside, as you can see, and I just wanted to say, welcome to the session, to the CV Sunday morning, or Monday morning, or whenever you are watching this. I just want to say, you're awesome, hope you're doing awesome, hope you're smashing the week, whenever you are watching it. And, yeah, God thinks you're awesome, so remember that. And yeah, without further ado, I will let my dad take it away, and I shall retreat into the trees behind me. Wah!
I keep fighting voices in my mind that say I'm not enough. Every single lie that tells me I will never measure up. Am I more than just the sum of every high and every low? Remind me once again just who I am, because I need to know. Ooh, you say I am loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. You say I am held when I am falling short, and when I don't belong, you say I am yours. The only thing that matters now is everything you think of me. In you think I am weak. You say I am held when I am falling short, and when I don't belong. Oh, you say I am yours, and I believe. Oh, I believe what you say of me. Oh, I believe. Taking all I have and now I'm laying it at your feet. You'll have every failure, God. You'll have every victory. And I believe, oh, I believe what you say of me. Oh, I believe. You say I am loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. You say I am held when I am falling short, and when I don't belong. Oh, you say I am yours, and I believe. Oh, I believe what you say of me. Oh, I believe. Oh, I believe. Oh, I believe what you say of me. I believe.
Hi guys, just one quick one this morning. Want to let you know that on Sunday the 25th, we had announced that we're going to have a picnic. Well, it appears that the weather is warming up, so we're going to roll the dice and meet on Sunday the 25th on the Tankerton Slopes, just down on the sand from the Royal Pub. So if you drive along the Marine Parade, you will see the Royal Pub there, and we should be just down from that on the sand if you're just going to walk along and look for us. I'm thinking 12 noon will be probably the best timing for that. So we can begin meeting there from 12 noon, probably till 3, and people can just decide if they want to stick around longer than that. But 12 to 3, Sunday the 25th, Tankerton Slopes, down from the Royal Pub. Brilliant. If you can make it, we'd love to see you. And feel free to bring friends and bring your own picnic. Nothing will be provided, so just bring your own food, and we'll just enjoy being together again. See you then.
And in the darkness we were waiting, without hope, without light, till from heaven you came running. There was mercy in your eyes, to fulfill the law and prophets. To a virgin came the word, from a throne of endless glory to a cradle in the dirt. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, all three in one. And God of glory and majesty, oh, praise forever was moved for good, for the Lamb had conquered death, and the dead rose from their tombs, and the angels stood in awe, for the souls of all who come to the Father are restored, and the church of Christ was born. Then the Spirit lit the flame, and now this gospel true the Lord, it shall not kneel, shall not faint, and by His blood and in His name and in His freedom I am free, for the love of Jesus Christ who has resurrected me. Praise the Father, praise the Son, oh praise the Spirit, oh three in one, and God of glory and majesty, we sing praise forever to the King. All praise, we sing praise the Father and praise the Son, yeah, praise the Spirit, oh three in one, and God of glory and majesty, we sing praise forever to the King of Kings. We sing praise forever to the King of Kings. We sing praise forever to the King of Kings. Yes, Lord, we do. We come to worship you. Yes, Lord, we do. We come to worship you. Yeah. Oh, just lift your voice this morning. Lift up a shout this morning to the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Lift your voice this morning. Lift your voice, those who have come to glorify the Lord. Lift your voice. Yeah.
Get up, get up, get up, get up out of that grave. Get up, get up, get up, get up out of that grave. Get up, get up, get up, get up out of that grave. Get up, get up, get up, get up out of that grave. Get up, get up, get up, get up out of that grave. Get up, get up, get up, get up out of that grave. Get up, get up, get up, get up out of that grave. Get up, get up, get up, get up out of that grave. Get up, get up, get up, get up out of that grave. Get up, get up, get up, get up out of that grave. Get up, get up, get up, get up, get up, get up.
Well, hello, guys. Get up out of that grave, week 5. Let's just crack on. The events of this past weekend, not to mention our weekend away, but the Euros. How many of you guys were just gutted on Sunday night? You know, I had to remove myself at a certain point because I get way too riled up about sports and winning and all of that. And the reality is, win or lose, those guys getting to a final was absolutely fantastic. It was huge. It was job well done. Could they have won the final? Absolutely. They, and there were mistakes and all, we love to analyze all of that stuff. But in our society, events like that cause other things to rise to the surface or leak out through the cracks. And this obsession with winning and this actual demand of victory. And in a humanist society, I don't doubt that that is inevitable. There was an American football coach years ago who was wrongly quoted as saying, winning isn't everything, it's the only thing. Um, I don't know how many of you guys are Will Ferrell fans. He's kind of hit and miss, but one of his films that I enjoyed quite a bit, kind of a guilty pleasure, I'm not recommending the film to you, it's called Talladega Nights. And one of the central tenets of the film, if it can have a tenet, because it's just a silly comedy, is that his father, when he's a little boy, before he leaves the family, says to Ricky Bobby, played by Will Ferrell, if you ain't first, you're last. And this little boy decides to live his whole life by that saying. And later on in the film, the dad goes, did I say that? Well, that's stupid. But this, Ricky Bobby kind of based his whole life on that idea. And there is something about that. In a capitalistic society, there is this survival of the fittest. Liverpool's own Bill Shankly said this. He said, and many of you know this more than me, but some believe football is a matter of life and death. Right? We saw that last Sunday. There was such passion, such emotion during the whole tournament, actually, looking the emotions that were on display about blokes playing a sport to entertain us. Some people believe football is a matter of life and death. I am very disappointed with that attitude. I can assure you it is much, much more important than that. Bill Shankly. Now, there's something really screwed up about that perspective. And there is this thing about winning that is a kind of religion in Western society. Has that contributed to breakthroughs and successes and achievement? Yeah, it probably has. And so hard work and seeking a goal and going for it, there's nothing wrong with that. But the idea that winning is what gives life meaning, so if I don't win, somehow it wasn't even worth it. If you ain't first, you're last. There's something really screwed up about that. And this morning what I want to do is identify that lie in us to whatever degree it's there. If you got a C and you wanted an A star, and you can't live with yourself with that. There's something about you, something about your identity that has been permanently damaged by that. Well, that's a lie. And Christian spirituality, Jesus spirituality, actually Jesus living, is completely the opposite of this mentality. You do not matter only because you win. You matter, and in fact, some of the most profound fruitfulness of your life will come in those moments when you don't win. So let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 12. 2 Corinthians is a letter that Paul writes when loads of people in the church at Corinth are really frustrated with him. They've been lied to by some false apostles that have come in. And in this bit of letter, Paul is responding to their embarrassment of him. And he gives us a type of spirituality that doesn't negate hard work and pursuing of goals. Does not. But negates the religion of winning. Yeah? So let's have a little look at it. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 9 to 10. And this is particularly Paul talking about some kind of physical problem that he had. A lot of theologians surmise it might have been his eyes. He seemed to have difficulty with his eyes, reading through the lines of some of his letters. That's what we pick up on. And so maybe he had a problem with his eyes, and he was begging God to take this from him. And this is God's response to him. And he has said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. For power is perfected in weakness. And he takes this to heart, and this is his response. Most gladly, therefore, I will rather boast about my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may dwell in me. Therefore, I am well content with weaknesses, with insults, with distresses, with persecutions, with difficulties, for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. This is such a profoundly countercultural piece of scripture. I've been looking forward to opening this up with you for a while. And so let's just dig into it. I'm just going to go down through, in some cases, word by word. All right? First one he says is this: my grace is sufficient for you. Now, many of us understand grace to mean forgiveness. You know, God shows us grace for our sinfulness, and he accepts us. So maybe forgiveness and acceptance. That's a commonly held idea of grace, and many of us think of it only in those terms. Truth be told, grace is a much richer word that has at least 4 other meanings to it. Not only does grace mean the bad stuff is washed away so that I'm now accepted, but it also means that he comes himself through his Holy Spirit. So not only is it a negative, taking away the negative, taking away things, but it is the provision of positive things. So the presence of the Holy Spirit, that's a grace. Empowerment or enablement. The Holy Spirit brings that and enables us to be more than we are on our own. Freedom. It brings freedom to our slavery. On our own, without the grace of God, we remain slaves. But you know what? When the grace of God comes into the equation, he breaks those chains and freedom becomes our reality. And what we're going to learn down here in this verse is that actually also it's this sense of completion. It brings us towards our created end, the thing we were created for. So grace is a much richer word. And so when God says to Paul here through the Holy Spirit, my grace is sufficient for you, is he saying, I'm going to provide for you. I know you feel broken by whatever this physical thing is that is bothering you, but I want you to know that I'm going to give you enough grace so that your life and your purpose will not be thwarted. My grace is sufficient for you. So when we talk about a church of grace, when we talk about the gospel of grace, we're not just talking about people whose sins are forgiven, but we talk about people who have been given provision for what they need and can be transformed and can be released into purpose and who can make a difference in the world around them. Why? Because of the grace of God. That is what is sufficient. And that's the second word I want us to look at. The word sufficient here means in its original language to be possessed of unfailing strength, to be strong, to be enough. My grace is enough, sufficient. You will have the strength for my calling on your life. My grace will give you all the strength you require. That is, if you trust it. If his grace isn't in the equation, and you're just trying to tough through it, and you're not coming to God going, I need your grace, well, you never get to experience its sufficiency. Yeah? So sufficient, to be strong enough. Unfailing strength. That's a powerful, powerful word. All right? So God says to him, my grace is sufficient for you. Then he says this second thing. And this This is Christianity, but it's not the Christianity I've been around a lot. Because this little line, and he hears this from the Spirit of God. So this isn't Paul giving his idea here. This is what God says to him. He senses God saying, my grace is sufficient for you. And then he says this second bit, for power is perfected in weakness. In the original language, it's a bit more wooden, and it's written in Greek like this, for power in weakness perfected. So, first of all, power. That's the word dunamis, dynamite, power. The Christian life is a life of power. Power is the currency of the Christian life. Say it that way. If you are living a powerless Christian life, you are missing the gig. And you need to start asking, Jesus, show me what I've missed. Show me where I got off track. Show me what, because power, dunamis, for which his grace is sufficient, is the point. For power in weakness perfected. In weakness, that word just means want of strength. When you don't have enough. When something confronts you that requires power, that requires courage, that requires character, and you look inside and you realize, I haven't got what this is asking of me. It's the person that stops and says, I need your grace to be enough for me right now because I look inside my chest and I don't have enough. And it's in that moment where the want of strength is observed in us. This requires an authenticity. If you aren't authentic and you're playing games and you're trying harder and harder and harder, you'll never stop and just go, wait a second, I have a want of strength. I'm weak, right? For power in weakness, want of strength, perfected. Now this word perfected is really interesting. It is the idea of bringing to completion or bringing to fulfillment. All right? It's not saying he will make us perfect. All right? There is no moral idea to this word in the original language. So many of us may be thinking, oh, okay, so he makes us more loving and more kind and more perfect as we're weak. And that's not what Paul's saying here. What Paul's saying is that you and the power that you require to live the life God has called you to will be completed, will be fulfilled if you realize it doesn't come from you. There was a point in my baseball career, that was my sport when I was a kid. There was a point in my baseball career where I realized I didn't have what it took to go further. Just didn't. I wasn't fast, I wasn't strong enough, I wasn't athletic enough, whatever. And I came to the realization that I had reached my ceiling. Now, could I have worked harder and tried to attain further? Sure. But some of this stuff, I don't know if you watch baseball, it's kind of dull at times. Some of these guys just have natural gifts, and I just wasn't born with them, And I took my gifts as far as I could take them, but I'd hit my ceiling. And so the realization is I came to a place that can be described as a want of strength. And in my own ability, there was no way for me to go further. But you see, if God wanted me to be a professional baseball player, he would have given me something different in my genetic code. If that was his calling on my life, I'd have had the physical abilities. Yes, I could have worked harder. I could have lifted weights more. I could have whatever. But I still, in my opinion, did not have what it takes to move beyond playing at a college level, perhaps, even with all of that extra work. Why? Well, because there are things you can't control in a weight room or at a food table, right? And often life is down to that. It's the intangibles. And you and I hit this ceiling called want of strength, or in Paul's words here, weakness. And the reality is, you were created with a calling. From all eternity, you were in his mind. You were in his mind. And he has a purpose and a plan and a role for you to play that is designed for you. It's meant to be you-shaped. And he will give you the power to live that calling. But the reality is, by yourself, you don't have it. For power in weakness is completed, is fulfilled. So the power to live your calling, to live your role, to live your unique position on earth is only accessed when you come to that place where you go, I've hit a ceiling, I can't do this in my own strength, I have a want of strength, I need your grace to be sufficient, to be enough for me. I need you to give me enablement, empowerment, or power unto my calling. And that's what that word means. That word perfected means complete or fulfill, to carry out the contents of a command. And interesting. That's the sense of the word. So that you are to carry out the content of a command that's been spoken over your life. That's so powerful. So there's a couple of things we learn about Christian spirituality here. First of all, we've all been given a purpose. We've all been given a calling that might work through you working in any different kind of vocation, right? A calling isn't only for those who work or are employed by the church. A calling is for all of us. We're all called. And we're called to live that out through different roles in society. All right? So that's first thing. We all have a calling. No one is meant to sit on their behind and write checks. All right? Writing checks might be a part of your calling, but it's not the essence of it. It's just a part of it. You have a role to play. You are meant to carry the kingdom into your context. And the only way to find the strength to do so is to enter into, with authenticity, with honesty, your personal bankruptcy, your weakness, your inability to have the strength to do it alone. For power is perfected in weakness. So let's keep going. Paul says this, right? He keeps going. And so he responds to this now. So he's like, okay, you're not going to take away my problem with my eyes or whatever. And how could he respond? He could go, oh, you're always trying to keep me down. You're always trying to, keep me on a short leash. I'm so frustrated, God, that you aren't doing what I'm asking you to do. It's not his response at all. Why? Because he knows that God is a good God. He trusts the character of his God. And so the answer comes with the weight of faithfulness and dependability and trustworthiness for Paul. And so he says these words. He says these two words, most gladly. Three words. Most gladly, therefore. I just think that's so profound. He just heard a no. But his answer is most gladly, therefore. Why? Because he just was given a key to the kingdom. You were just given a key to the kingdom. And this is the key. I will boast about my weaknesses. My weaknesses are the keys to power. That's the key. That's the key. So he says, my weaknesses are a really good thing. It isn't all about winning. It isn't all about success. I am not a failure. Most gladly, therefore, I will boast about my weaknesses. Now, I just want to stop you for a minute, okay? Let me just stop you for a minute and just remind you how bloomin' countercultural that statement is. I will boast about my weaknesses. Um, I sometimes am hard to understand um, for uh, English people because I am a bit over authentic sometimes. I overshare, according to some people. I'm comfortable. It's not oversharing for me, it's oversharing for them. And one of the things that has saved my life is the depression that came with winter, living in a country where there is actually winter. So I have that condition where in the winter, actually my whole system goes into a depressive thing just because of the lack of sunlight. And it's just physiological. I was raised in a place where there's 330 days of sun every year, and there's less than that here. And I didn't realize its relevance for the longest time. I think it was 2014 I finally got my head around it, and it explained so much for me. And so I talk to people really honestly. In fact, I was at a pub the other day, and someone was asking, how are you? They heard my accent, and they said, how do you like it here? I said, it's great, except for February. Happens to be my birthday month, but even so, by February, I am flattened out. I know some of you are too, and you grew up here, but I'm just flat. And so I said to them, yeah. The winters are hard for me. Um, but with vitamin D and antidepressants, I figured out a way to make it work. And you could tell they did not know what to do with that. It was really, really interesting to me because that's what Paul's talking about here. You start to become friends with your weaknesses. Why? Because they become conduits to the strength of God. Actually, guys, in that moment, I didn't yet have permission, but what I would have loved to have told them was, and you know what? The struggle with that brought me to a place of brokenness where I cried out to God, and an intimacy and a reality of friendship with God has become a reality in my life like it never has before. And it never would have happened if I'd have stayed where there was 330 days of sun a year. And God uses other things for people who live in those types of climates. Don't get me wrong. For that was one of the key pieces he used to get access to me and show me my brokenness and my weakness and my need for him. And to be honest, it's a pretty lame thing to have been used, but that's part of my story. So I boast about my weaknesses. I boast about the fact that I need to take antidepressants during the winter. I boast about the fact that I'm not strong enough to do this life without his grace, without his provision. I boast about my weaknesses. And this is what I love so much about AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. Everyone introduces themselves how? Hi, my name is Jim, and I'm an alcoholic. You start with the reality of brokenness in the hope that that will open up into power. Because the power comes from a divine source, not myself. And the word boast here, Paul uses boast, it means to glory in a thing. To glory in my lack of strength. Do you do that? When you fail, do you stop and register that? Wow. I'm not who I pretend to be, even to myself. I need you so much, God. I thank you for this amazing opportunity to realize your strength in my life. If my performance is the point at any level and to any degree, this teaching is disastrous. Because this teaching says your performance isn't the point at all. It's his power It's a divine power that comes in through my weakness. That sufficiency of His grace, it enters one way, through my weaknesses. And if my performance is how I get the approval of God, and actually my performance is what I think is the entry point for God's power, then I'm all jacked up because I'm looking at the wrong place. And I'm going to be hiding the very place where it's meant to enter. You get me? If my weakness is where God accesses my life with His power, but I'm looking at performance over here as the place where He's going to access my life with His power, well, He's over here and I'm over here. And who's missing each other? And He's just there waiting. And He's saying, hey, Paul, remind him. I'm waiting for him over here. So he says, most gladly, therefore, I will boast about my weaknesses so that, right? So he has learned to be authentic and honest and real about his weaknesses as a lifestyle. Why? Because so that is instrumental, right? It means it will enable the next thing. So he boasts about his weaknesses because that means the power of Christ will dwell in me. It may dwell in me. And what that word means is to fix a tent or habitation. We know something about that from last weekend, don't we, guys? And it means to come and live among, to tabernacle, to take possession of, to live in the house, to conquer and settle. His power moves in for good. His power conquers us and our inclination towards winning and performance. That's all based on a self-delusion. It's all based on a lie about what human beings really are. And our society sings those songs. And you are living in the midst of a countercultural song that says, my weakness, when I'm real about that, when I bring that to you, you come in with your power and you dwell in me. You move in. You begin to set up shop and set up your dwelling in me. You conquer and settle. And then finally in verse 10 he says this, therefore, I am well content. This is when Paul shows that he's actually from Essex, right? I'm well content. It just means it's one's good pleasure. This is about bad news. This is about failure. This is about his illness. This is about his brokenness. It becomes his good pleasure. Then he says two words. Therefore, when I am weak, then I am strong. When I am weak, then I am strong. When I am weak, then I am strong. And there's the Christian life. When I am good, I am loved. That's the Christianity I've heard. And it's a lie. It's religion. It's legalism. It's performance. It's not the good news of Jesus. When I am weak, then I am strong. Do you know what? I'm weak. Are you? That means you qualify to be strong. But only if you take ownership of it. Only if you will admit it. Only if you will fess up. Own that. Hi, my name's Jim. And I'm weak. Then I am strong. And this is no ordinary strong. This is the grace of the God that spoke and the universe was flung into existence. This is the power, the dynamite of the living God in His Spirit released into my life to work through me, to work in me. Yes, to bring transformation, but also to bring substance. He's the gig. Like we've said every week in this series, the Christian life is received, it is not performed. And you know what? It's only received by weak people. When I am weak, then I am strong. Let me just take you for a second. I got a minute. So let me just pray for you real quick, and then we're going to close with a song of worship. I want to pray specifically for the courage to be real about your weaknesses, bring those to God, and invite His grace to be sufficient for you. All right? So I want you right now, I want you to think of a weakness in your life. I want you to think of a failure. I want you to think of some place where you weren't enough. In your character, in your performance, in your relationships, where you just weren't enough. And I want you to own that. God, that was me. That's the reality about me. But I bring that weakness to you. And I lay it at your feet. And I ask you to access me, to come in, to conquer me and settle in me with your grace, with your power, with your character, with your purpose, with your calling, and with your life. Amen. Amen. He's heard that prayer, and He's working. I want to invite you, if you can do this, in fact, all of you can do this, I can do this, will you? Each day, I'd like you to read and spend at least a couple of minutes just mulling these two verses of Scripture. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 9 to 10. And allow them to renew your mind and unlock you so that you can be free, so that you can be authentic, but also so that you can know His power, because His grace is sufficient for all of us. Bless you guys.